We need energy to survive. Whether it's a single human body burning calories or a massive corporation running global server farms, survival requires the active extraction of energy from the environment. For most of human history, doing that meant setting things on fire. And if you trace the power cables of our modern world back to their source, you'll find we haven't actually moved past that. Nearly 90% of all electricity generated on Earth today comes from steam turbines. The core technology behind them was invented in 1884. We've known about the alternatives for a long time. The first hydroelectric dams and wind turbines appeared in the late 19th century. By 1954, we had working nuclear reactors and the first functional solar panels. Yet instead of fully adopting these technologies, we still mostly heat our water by burning coal, oil, and gas. Fossil fuels remain remarkably cheap, creating a barrier that scientific knowledge alone cannot overcome. Digging coal out of the ground and burning it is far less expensive in the short term than damming a river or manufacturing complex photocells. Electric vehicles often shift pollution rather than eliminating it. While they clear the air in city centers, they frequently run on electricity generated by burning coal at power plants located on the geographical outskirts. Then there's the hardware itself. The electronics inside green technology require rare, valuable ores like coltan. A significant portion of the world's coltan is extracted in Africa, almost entirely under severe, unregulated manual labor conditions. The intense global demand for these minerals feeds directly into geopolitical instability. The violent struggle to control coltan deposits was a primary driver of the Second Congo War, a conflict that dragged in 9 different nations and cost 5 million lives. Transitioning to EVs often replaces one type of footprint with another. The visible smog of the city is traded for the toxic, unrecyclable lithium batteries buried in landfills, and the human suffering displaced to less visible parts of the world. Even if we could source every component ethically, relying purely on the wind and the sun introduces a severe physical bottleneck: the weather. Solar panels stop working at night. Hydro turbines require consistent river flows, and in severe winter conditions, wind turbines literally freeze in place. To survive these natural lulls, a fully renewable grid requires massive energy storage. One of the largest storage facilities in the world sits at the Ouarzazate solar plant in Morocco. This diagram illustrates the problem of scale. The Moroccan facility covers 30 square kilometers, roughly the size of the entire city of Brussels. But the actual energy it can store is microscopic compared to the daily consumption of an average European capital like Berlin. To power a major city through a cloudy, windless week, you would have to pave the surrounding countryside with batteries. And if we track daily energy pricing on this same grid, we see the exact opposite problem. In areas with high solar adoption like California, a lack of battery storage means the grid gets flooded with excess electricity during peak midday sunlight. There is so much unusable energy that prices literally drop below zero, forcing producers to pay the grid. The transition away from fossil fuels is severely limited by our physical infrastructure. Current battery technology is simply too expensive, too large, and too resource-heavy to capture and stabilize the intermittent power of the natural world on a global scale. So if the grid is bottlenecked and the economics don't naturally pencil out, why are we seeing such a massive boom in the renewable sector? The market is being aggressively pushed by the government. In recent years, both the United States and the European Union have injected hundreds of billions of dollars and euros into green energy programs. This public funding is the bedrock for the industry's biggest players. Tesla, for instance, has leveraged billions in state subsidies, tax rebates, and low-interest loans. Without early and aggressive government intervention, the company likely never would have achieved profitability. What we are looking at is an economically constructed market. Because the technology isn't completely self-sustaining yet, taxpayers are heavily subsidizing the industry to force a rapid transition. There is one alternative that solves almost all of these logistical problems. It generates zero carbon emissions, requires a relatively small physical footprint, and produces immense amounts of power. But it is also the source we are most afraid of: nuclear energy. This chart shows the capacity factor of energy sources, how reliably a plant produces maximum power annually. Nuclear operates at nearly perfect efficiency, twice as reliable as coal, 3 times more effective than wind, and 5 times more efficient than solar panels. But the mathematics of efficiency are hard to prioritize over human psychology. Decades of radioactive waste management concerns and the disaster at Fukushima have created a deep, visceral fear of nuclear power. Following Fukushima, Germany made the political decision to completely phase out its nuclear power plants. But because solar and wind couldn't independently carry the load of a heavy industrial economy, they had to find a reliable baseline power source to fill the gap. By shutting down their cleanest, most efficient power plants out of fear, Germany inadvertently forced themselves backward. To keep the lights on, they fell back into heavy dependency on foreign gas and began physically expanding their massive, carbon-heavy, open-pit coal mines. The transition to cleaner energy does have momentum. The cost of lithium-ion batteries has dropped by nearly 80% over the last 20 years, and there are massive, untapped reserves of power out there, like the tidal currents off the coasts of Scotland and Norway, that could theoretically rival the output of several nuclear plants. But the scale of the challenge is daunting. Even in California, where renewable integration is a heavily funded national priority, wind and solar still account for just over a third of the state's total electricity generation. A completely clean grid might require a future breakthrough, like commercializing nuclear fusion. Until then, there is no sudden magic solution. The path away from fossil fuels will be a slow grind of building infrastructure and accepting difficult compromises. So, as you stream this video on a sleek glass screen, powered by an invisible wireless network, remember the physical reality keeping it online. Somewhere in the world, the energy keeping your digital life running is still being clawed out of the earth by human hands.